Hey, and shoot us some chat questions also if you see any. Yep. All right. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Oh, down. Yeah. There we go. Yep. All right.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm good. I'm ready. Whoa. That's not good. What's up, Dolphins fans? It is a rainy Tuesday afternoon here in South Florida, but that's all right. Me and David Furones are here to bring you a little sunshine on Dolphins Deep Dive. I'm Chris Perkins, your Dolphins columnist. That's David Furones, your Dolphins writer. Hey, we're a little bit more than 2 weeks from the NFL draft, right? It's April 27th to 29th. Dolphins have a lot of options for their first selection, which is number 51 overall, the 20th pick of the second round. You guys remember that they lost one of the first round picks for the tampering with Brady and Sean Payton, Tom Brady and Sean Payton. The other one was sent to Denver in the Bradley Chubb trade. So the Dolphins' first pick is number 51 overall. Do they dare go running back? Do they go offensive line? Do they go tight end? We're going to discuss what I had in my mock draft on Monday. Also, Tua Tagovailoa hosted an event on Monday night, last night, out at the Hard Rock. Our David Furones was there. We'll see what he has to say about the muscled up Tua and what Tua had to say. Also, Tyreek Hill has some interesting comments about his future. We'll touch on that. And then you guys know me. I have concerns about the offense. It's early. It's before the draft, but we'll see if David Furones can settle me down a little bit. There's a lot going on. Let's dive in. All right, Furones. So the Dolphins' position in the draft. What should the priority be? I mean, should it be tight end? Should it be right tackle? Should it be left guard? I had the Dolphins taking the Iowa tight end, Sam Laporta, in my mock draft because he's got a balanced skill set. He might be the most balanced tight end in the draft as far as inline blocking and hands for receiving. And that's what the Dolphins want. Last year, Mike Gesicki, who went to New England, was a hands receiver. Durham Smythe, a hands tight end, a receiving tight end. Durham Smythe, who signed a contract extension, more of a blocking tight end. They've got Eric Saubert. They signed him in free agency. Tanner Connor is back. But I like Laporta because he is a balanced tight end, and I think that that's something that this offense could use. But, you know, again, they could use a right tackle. They could use a left guard. The strongest positions in the draft to me are offensive tackle, tight end, cornerback, and edge. Also wide receiver. But Furones, what do you think the Dolphins should do in the draft, and what do you think they will do in the draft?
Perk, I think you knocked it out the park with that pick. You know, I was worried all weekend about what you were going to come up with in that mock draft, that you were the Sun Sentinels GM, and I was pacing back and forth all weekend just wondering what you were going to do, if you were going to blow this pick, if the fan base was going to react like they did when Ted Ginn was drafted by the Dolphins. But you nailed it. I love the pick. I love Sam Laporta from Iowa going to the Dolphins at 51. If the Dolphins do go tight end, which is a need right now, we both wrote about it. How I wrote about how they have 3 on the roster, so that just is a natural spot where you need someone. You got to make up for the loss of Gesicki, the hands that he has, the receiving threat that he is, but they also need someone in this offense who's an adequate blocker, which Gesicki wasn't, and it was why he didn't really fit, didn't mesh with Mike McDaniel's offense, the wide zone blocking. He's lacking in that department. He saw some of his career low in-game snap totals, and that was why. And I think Laporta, like you said, is that balanced option that he does present enough of that receiving threat that can make up for the loss of Gesicki in that area, because although Gesicki wasn't used that often, he was used a lot in the red zone, and they will need a big tight end, big pass catcher that can give you those red zone targets, and then also just being an adequate blocker. Maybe he's not great in any one area, but just good enough in a lot of different areas that he's a nice balanced tight end that I think would be a great choice. And then now I don't know. When I do my mock draft next week, then I got to maybe see if I come up with something different, just to be different from you. But I do love that pick. Maybe I'll try to come up with something in the next week so that we keep readers guessing. But I do love that pick that you came up with.
Yeah, and then look, we've got Dalton Kincaid of Utah is the top-rated tight end, or really him or Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. It depends on who you watch, and Laporta is between number 3 and number 5. There's Luke Musgrave of Oregon State. He missed a lot of last season, and Darnell Washington, the huge kid from Georgia, he's 6'7", goes about 260. So I do think that if they do go tight end, that Laporta will be available. If Kincaid is there, he won't be. You're going to take him. If Michael Mayer is there, he won't be. You'll take him. But Laporta, I really do think is the best balance between inline and being a hands receiver. Let's look at the draft a little bit more and what else the Dolphins could do, Furones. What would you think about a running back at number 51? I think Jahmyr Gibbs of Alabama is going to be gone. Bijan Robinson of Texas will definitely be gone. He'll be a late first rounder. He'll be the only first rounder, most likely among running backs. Roschon Johnson from Texas is an interesting running back, but I don't see the Dolphins going running back. I think if they went running back, Furones, they would probably go with a veteran as opposed to a rookie, because you do have 2 veterans in there, but I think that they would want an impact player. Whoever they draft, I think they're going to be looking for immediate impact as opposed to patience, right? You could be a rotational player, but I don't think, for example, that they would draft Teron Armstead's backup at left tackle in the second round. You would draft somebody to compete at left guard with Liam Eichenberg, somebody to compete at right tackle with Austin Jackson, and if they don't get the job, that's fine. But I think you want somebody who's going to be impactful with that second round pick.
Yeah, that's right. And I think I remember early in the draft process, there was a lot of talk about running back. I think a lot of mock drafts had, like the Dolphins taking Jahmyr Gibbs in that spot. But now we do see after free agency, the Dolphins are essentially running it back at running back with the 4 guys that were free agents. One of them a restricted free agent, but all 4 between Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Savon Ahmed, and Myles Gaskin all returning. So now you have 4 on the roster. Now, it doesn't mean they're all going to end up on the active roster once the season comes along, because, hey, you remember last offseason, you had Sony Michel signed, and then it turned out that he didn't make the roster either. So they could still get more running back. They will need more running backs to compete during training camp, and then someone could come up and surprise people and just earn a spot on the team. So if they go running back, I don't see it maybe with one of those day 2 selections. That's why the tight end just feels like the natural fit, because also when you look at offensive linemen, then we do know the history of drafting offensive linemen with the organization hasn't been great. Now maybe Mike McDaniel could bring in a new sort of crop of better judgment, better assessment of these linemen, and Frank Smith, his expertise in that area as well, being able to provide a valuable draft pick. Really, that on day 2, the only one that has really hit in recent memory for the Dolphins has been Robert Hunt in 2020 going in the second round. So if you do find the competition for Austin Jackson, maybe it's better to come in the form of a veteran at right tackle in free agency. So Liam Eichenberg, the competition there, you did get with another veteran in Dan Feeney, and you also still have Robert Jones, Lester Cotton potentially there, providing some depth and competition at that spot. So that's why, running back, maybe they find one later on, maybe a 6th or 7th round pick. I think Mike McDaniel could probably find one of those deeper gems in the draft, maybe an undrafted guy. I think he just has a track record of being able to work with not necessarily someone who is considered widely as a top prospect, but just grooming someone in his system and finding a scheme fit that he feels. And I feel like Chris Greer, given his track record, sort of sees it the same way, that he doesn't need to use a high draft pick on a running back. So I think once again, maybe we don't see it this draft, and then they might find some more legs, a younger running back later on, possibly undrafted, and maybe even another free agent later on to compete for a spot. So that's why I really just do like the idea of tight end with that second pick, especially with that second round pick, their first selection, especially with how many there are that could go in that range, and just the quality of tight ends in this draft.
Yeah, and look, Furones, we get this from our chat from Granzier12 saying that they disagree. Tight end is not as big of a need as center or right tackle. The ball either goes to Hill, Waddle, or the run game. Tight end is third to fifth option. And I would agree, except I think that tight end, they would like to have the option. And look, that this might be a Mike McDaniel thing, but to me, I see Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle as your first two options. I would like to see the run game as a main option, but that tight end kind of works in there just as a factor. I don't, the tight end is not going to be above Waddle or Hill. But if you look at the Mike McDaniel offense from San Francisco, and look, they don't have a George Kittle on this roster. So let's not make a direct comparison of skill sets and what you can do. But the way that you can use the tight end in the Mike McDaniel offense, it opens the tight end position up to be a viable weapon, not a fallback position of when Hill is covered and Waddle is covered and you can't run, well, then we hit the tight end. I think that's what the tight end was last year. I think that's what the running game was last year. I would like to see that this offense be more offensive and have more options and take it to the defense. Remember, this offense was 24th again on third down conversions, and it was second to last in run game attempts. So, look, I know that some of this falls on Mike McDaniel, but I would like to see a more diverse offense. I thought the offense was so reliant on the big play last year that when it couldn't get the big play, it really had a hard time moving the chains and scoring. I think a receiving tight end would help in that manner.
Yeah, and the Dolphins are pretty close to kind of cleaning house with the previous tight end group. Durham Smythe did get the extension, but I mean, Hunter Long, which was a draft pick of the previous regime, he was traded away, and really he only had one reception over the 2 seasons. Obviously, Season Carter released. Adam Shaheen, they tried to trade him last year, but then that was voided because of the physical, and then now he has not been re-signed. And then obviously Gesicki, that we mentioned, walking in free agency, but Gesicki did not fit into what the Dolphins are trying to do. So now I think I do see tight end as sort of a priority for this coaching staff. Mike McDaniel, John Embry, Frank Smith, offensive coordinator, John Embry, the tight ends coach, to be able to get some guys that they want, that they can draft, that they hand pick, and then they'll be able to groom the way they want, and not something that they have seen those tight ends have experienced in the past. Durham Smythe did fit, so that's why we do see the extension, and now he will be the longest tenured Dolphins offensive player, active player on this roster. When you think about it, 5 years. He was tied with Gesicki after the Devontae Parker trade, but now he continues on the roster. So I think now, just with 3 on the roster, one of them that was an undrafted player of the year before, a converted wide receiver in Tanner Conner, another one in Eric Saubert that they did handpick this year in free agency. Now that seems like a position where they will prioritize in the draft, get their own rookie that they could groom for years going forward. And they don't have a George Kittle in this draft, but what if they could develop one that could maybe not George Kittle, but that could be a Dolphins poor man version at least of a George Kittle. Right.
And look, and to get into the right tackle, center, offensive line thing, it's not a great year for interior offensive line in the draft, but it is a great year for tackles. Peter Skoronski, the big tackle who could be a guard also from Northwestern, is regarded as the #1 offensive tackle. Osiris Torrance, the guard from Florida, is probably the #1 interior offensive lineman. However, to Granzier 12's point, Steve Avila, the guard, center guard from TCU and that's who I believe Mel Kiper had him mocked to the Dolphins today in his most recent mock draft. But this is a kid who's big and physical, 6'3", 330 pounds. He's played center, guard, and tackle. So he's regarded as more of an interior offensive lineman, but so Granzier 12 could be onto something there because Steve Avila is a guy who, you can slot him wherever he works out best in the NFL, but he's got experience at all three offensive line positions. So that would be an interesting one. I wouldn't mind, I wouldn't mind if the Dolphins did something like that because of some versatility. So that's not a bad thing. Look, what about the quarterbacks really quickly here, Furones? I'm not yet sold on any of them as a year one breakout player. Bryce Young from Alabama, C.J. Stroud, Ohio State, Anthony Richardson, the muscled up Anthony Richardson from Florida, Will Levis from Kentucky, Hendon Hooker from Tennessee, who's coming off of the knee injury. Do any of them stick out to you as, this is a guy who year one, he could come in and make a big impact? You're always hoping that from the first round quarterbacks. I'm pretty wait and see on all of these guys.
Yeah, sure. Bryce Young seems like that special prospect in this draft, and the only thing holding him back from everything we've heard, every analysis of him, is the height, of course, but just his decision-making vision as a quarterback. It seems like he's bound to be really special. And I always hate doing this because I know my old takes then possibly if in drafts past when I haven't been on the record like this, I know I've come up with some pretty horrible takes on quarterbacks just in like football fandom growing up or something. So boy, if they pulled up some of the stuff that I maybe said like in high school or something or college on quarterback draft classes, I'd be out of a job in this profession. But it's just what sort of seems to be the consensus with Bryce Young. And then these two guys, they are polished, where in Anthony Richardson seems like just this special athletic talent, but maybe needs to be a little bit more polished. And you hear Will Levis, of course, mentioned in that area. You go a little bit deeper, Hendon Hooker, older guy, had an injury, so now he's coming off that. So he might be could be a steal later on if he ends up dropping for someone that maybe has time to develop a young quarterback and give him time to get back into the swing of things. Where we did see like Tua had that hip injury that ended his college career, so he needed some time before he became a starter. And then really that whole first year, sort of some of that second year, he still wasn't quite himself yet. Before then, we saw that year 3 leap that we saw from Tua. So maybe if a team likes a Hendon Hooker, can wait a little bit to take him, the way the Eagles, let's say, took Jalen Hurts a few drafts ago, and then that turned out really well. You can get him sort of in that range, and then groom him, and then see how he comes along after a couple seasons, if you have a veteran that can lead the team in the time being.
You talked about bad quarterback takes or memorable. My worst quarterback take it was Ryan Leaf over Peyton Manning. I was convinced. Ryan Leaf. I'm probably the only person in America who will still admit that. But I was a Ryan Leaf guy. Yeah, I was.
I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised you are even admitting that.
It's just that, I just want to be honest sometimes. Sometimes I want to be honest here.
It just goes to show you sometimes it can be a crapshoot. Just the two guys that are just very close to each other with measurables, and you're really in the crosshairs of what could turn out to make one guy a better pro than the other. And then something just gets exposed for one of them. Another one ends up being great, and then they go in two completely different trajectories. So it's really interesting how that could break out for two prospects that appear to be so close to each other.
Yep. All right, Furones, let's move on here. And speaking of quarterbacks, you were at Tua's event last night, so we're going to talk about that. Tyreek Hill made a kind of a half-joking remark, right? A flippant remark on Kansas City radio about retiring after 2025. You did a story on that too, and we're going to talk about my way too early concerns about the Dolphins offense. But tell us about Tua. He's got the mustache. He's got the muscle. What did you find out from Tua last night when you visited with the upbeat, inviting Tua Tagovailoa?
Yeah, there's so much to that. I mean, we hadn't seen him since Christmas Day. So obviously a concussion protocol to end the season. So we didn't see him those last two regular season games, the playoff loss. And then he still needed some time after the season was over to get back, but we hadn't spoken to him in a media setting. So he was very inviting to even football questions, and this is at his charity event. Sometimes as media, you don't know how many football questions a player will be welcome to answering because they want to talk about their event, what they're doing off the field. But Tua, he was in a great mood with us. He was okay with talking footballs. I mean, it seemed like he was willing to go even longer than we did. You know, us, the media that attended, we kind of just got a couple questions in about football. We asked him about his event, the Polynesian culture and Samoan, Hawaiian culture, all being a part of it, the luau aspect to it, and teammates embracing that culture. But then it seemed like he was ready to just keep answering some football questions. And I guess it was on us as media members. We were just looking to hopefully get one or two in there and that we wouldn't get shut down. And then he answered them, and maybe we should have been ready to ask him some more. But I'm sure he'll have a media availability pretty early in the offseason workout program where we could really dive into a lot of the other stuff that we want to ask Tua. But yeah, he debuted the new mustache that was a big hit on social media as soon as the fans saw him. Obviously, he looked ripped, even though he was wearing a suit. But you can see in that slim fit that he's really been working on his body this offseason. The workouts he's been doing on his own have got him looking great. So obviously we know the strength is one thing that he wants to improve on. And one thing he mentioned when I asked him about that is that he wants to put himself in a better position for late in the year. So that really speaks to he's looking at that aspect of it, of lasting all year, the durability, and that he feels a stronger him will be able to last the whole NFL season and then get him to that finish line, which we saw last year he wasn't able to. Now, that was because of the second concussion protocol stint. But we all know he is working on the jiu-jitsu lessons, and hopefully that can, in addition to making himself stronger, that he can better fall and counter sort of because obviously he's not going to be the strongest. He's not going to be stronger than these defensive linemen that are bringing him down. So inevitably, he's going to have to use some form of, in this case, jiu-jitsu, to counter sort of that stronger opponents bringing him down, which is one of the aspects of these martial arts, like judo, like jiu-jitsu. And being able to fall in a more advantageous place for him so that he's not getting hurt and exposing his body and his head specifically to those kind of blows from stronger defenders bringing him down. So hopefully that'll all be a plus for him, and we're able to see a healthy Tua, and obviously a very upbeat Tua who was happy to have Coach Mike McDaniel again participating in the event, some of his teammates getting up there doing some of the dances and the chants, and just a very lively atmosphere at Tua's luau.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to follow on social media and then to see your story. And, the bulked up Tua, I like to see that. The Tua with the mustache, the Tua with the wife and kid, the Tua who, the team is behind and they're having fun at the event. But really, Furones, to me, it all adds up to Tua being more comfortable in his own skin, Tua being more comfortable as an NFL quarterback, as the leader of the Dolphins. And when I look at this, I think it's an encouraging sign because, look, Ryan Tannehill, it took him a whole year, like his rookie year. If you remember with Tannehill, he wasn't supposed to be the starter, even though he was drafted at number, 12 or 8? I can't remember the exact number. But anyway, David Garrard was going to be the starter. And then, Matt Moore was here also. And David Garrard, hurt himself right before the season opener late in training camp. And I think the feeling among the coaching staff was, let's go with the rookie as opposed to Matt Moore because the rookie has a future. And so Tannehill was thrust into this role as a rookie. he didn't really seem too comfortable around the media and in the media setting. You know, it's so much. You have to talk to us every Wednesday, and you have to talk to us after every game, win or lose, and you're the front man, and you're answering all these questions, stuff that might not have even been your fault or your responsibility. You're answering questions for them. I thought Tua made some strides last year in that respect, but, and I'll throw it to you for this, Tua wasn't around us the first couple of years. Well, I was a news writer, you were there, but it was COVID, and the locker rooms were shut down, and it's a very different environment when the media is in there every day and you're trying to live your life, and we're there talking to people, you know, Jalen Waddle, who is right next to Tua, and there's some of the receivers who are right there, Eric Ezukama and some of those guys who are right there, and you're all around Tua. I don't know how how comfortable he felt. We always saw him in the locker room, right, being himself, laughing with teammates, playing ping pong back in the days when the ping pong table was there. But
let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Right.
Whole ping pong John.
We still don't know what happened with that ping pong table fully. But it just really, to bring it all together, what I saw from Tua last night, very briefly and very anecdotally, seems like a man who's ready to make the next step on the field and with the media. What did you get from those few moments with Tua last night?
Yeah, and just in that interview setting, he seemed so comfortable with us, and he really, it seemed like he wanted to see us again. Like it had been for 4 months almost, right. 3.5 months at least, and he was happy to see us. I remember last year, Mike McDaniel at one point in the offseason started saying how Tua was coming out of his shell with the rest of the team, with him. He was being less guarded. Yeah. And then maybe this is when we're seeing Tua do the same thing outwardly when it comes to, us in the media, which, hey, it's not the most important thing. Obviously, the priority is how you interact with your teammates and the team. But I think it speaks another volume, to another extension to that confidence just going outward another level where, now with the media, because he knows he's also, when you speak to the media, you're talking to all the fans because they're watching that. They're watching every word that you say in the media. So, yeah, I think that's another level to another. He's extending that now, being less guarded around us and in the media and the press, and it's probably just it's another step of confidence that we're seeing from Tua Tagovailoa. That we saw that one step last year. Hey, it led to 25 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, 25 touchdowns and 5 interceptions before that second half against Green Bay, where we now know he was playing through a concussion. But now, I mean, just. What could you think in the second year of an offense? Another year with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, them taking another step with him, Tua himself taking another step, Mike McDaniel potentially taking another stride as his head coach, then him being a little more confident. Just, you got to imagine what you can see out of Tua now with this new and improved version of himself.
Yeah, and speaking of quarterback improvement, we get this from Raphael Courtwright in the chat. And he says, Skyler, second year in the system, does dude make sophomore jump? I think he does. But he's got to compete with Mike White for that backup job. And I thought Skyler did a great job last year for the situation that he was put in. You're a rookie 7th round pick, and Tua is there, he gets hurt. Now your veteran backup, Teddy Bridgewater, who you're thinking, I'm going to sit and learn from both of these guys. Well, Teddy Bridgewater is hurt for a lot of the season, and especially that Jets game where Teddy gets hurt on the first play, or he wobbles, according to the spotter in the booth, and now you're Skyler, and now it's your game. I mean, the dude, he's starting the wild card game. He's starting the game against the Jets to get them into the playoffs. And no, Skyler did not play as well as, what's our kid's name from San Francisco?
Brock Purdy.
Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah, Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy, right. So he didn't perform as well as Brock Purdy. But listen, under the circumstances, I thought Skyler did a good job. I wouldn't have had a problem if they would have said that, we're gonna let Skyler be the number 2. I like that they brought in Mike White. I would have preferred that they bring in a veteran backup quarterback, But I think that I really do think that Skyler will make a big enough jump based on last year that he could have been a trusted backup. Do you think Skyler makes a meaningful jump this year?
Hold on, Perk. A little bit of a flip-flop from you. First, you want a veteran quarterback because you feel that the Dolphins need more than that, but then now you feel Skylar Thompson could just be the number 2?
Well, I think he could have. I prefer the veteran. Like that. Let me be clear. I prefer the veteran, but I do think that Skyler, based on what he did last year, I think he could have made a big enough jump to be a trusted number 2. That's what I think. But again, with me, I would have liked Teddy Bridgewater back. I mean, because I like the veteran presence in that room.
Hey, Skyler did get some tremendous experience for a rookie. I mean, this side of Brock Purdy, what other 7th-round rookie quarterback is getting to play in a playoff game in an environment like Buffalo? And although, yeah, he wasn't even completing 50% of his passes, he turned the ball over a couple times, but he had the team right there in it. And he, although, yeah, in the regular season finale against the Jets, they didn't score an offensive touchdown, but he managed the game enough, didn't turn the ball over in that game, in one where you just need to avoid a mistake and let the defense win it, let the kicker win it at the end, and you end up getting your team into the playoffs. So he managed some situations, and yeah, that's a tremendously valuable experience to take into now a year or two as a 7th-round rookie and as an older now second-year player, because he had so many years at Kansas State, so many years as a college quarterback. So now he takes that with him into year 2 of the same offense. All the continuity between Mike McDaniel, offensive coordinator Frank Smith, quarterbacks coach Darrell Bevel, Chandler Henley, assistant quarterbacks coach, all these guys still together with him. So yeah. Now he's going to be into a competition, and I think he's earned that, just the right to be able to compete for that QB2 job, and with someone who has been in a similar system with the Jets under Mike LaFleur and then and Mike White, and then now these two can duke it out through OTAs, minicamp, and training camp to determine a backup quarterback. And then hey, you're still solid with the 3rd quarterback if you then fall down the same path where you have a toe injury and then another injury to the backup. At least you have a viable option at QB3 then to go from there.
Yeah, and I'll just say this, that you know, to me, Skyler's job last season wasn't to win these games, right? You have the defense, well, the defense at home, and you have Tyreek Hill, you have Jalen Waddle, you have Mike Gesicki, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Teron Arms. You have all these guys who are supposed to win the game. Skyler just couldn't lose the game, and I thought he did his job in that respect. Let's talk Tyreek Hill, because he was on the Kansas City radio station. You did a story about this, and he was just kind of joking. He was telling Kansas City he's going to be their worst nightmare when they play this season, which I totally believe that. When he said that he might retire after 10 years would be after the 2025 season. How serious was he? Because I think he was just kind of joking. You kind of never know with Tyreek yet. I think he was kind of joking, just kind of talking. You know, when he talks family and that, you know, his grandparents bringing him up, his kid, you know, he's serious. When he talked retirement and ping pong table, you're not too sure. But if he retired after 10 years, I think the Dolphins would have to be very fulfilled, right? And that's basing that his production goes like it did last season. They would have to be absolutely thrilled that they had this Hall of Fame performer for the last 3 years of his career. I don't think that they could complain about that, right? Am I unbased with that?
So you have him talking retirement closer on the spectrum of Tyreek Hill seriousness to joking level, closer to talking like he was talking about the ping pong table than when he talks about his family. I feel like he's pretty serious about his career and when he talks retirement. So, you know, he's somewhere in between, because obviously we know with Tyreek, when he speaks, you can get one answer out of him one day, and then you ask him the next week, and then it's something else, and then it's probably because, like the way he was with the ping pong table, he's not following up on his original lie. So now he's got to come up with something.
Tyreek is fun. We can say that.
Hey, right. I give him credit for just how quickly he comes up with something when I remember that ping pong saga last year. But I think he is pretty serious about this. I think the way he was speaking, it seems like that's kind of a goal that he has in mind to reach double-digit years, which for him, I think he would be, 32 by then. So that's – now he said two things. He said – to reach double-digit seasons, which he's going into year 8 now in 2023. That would mean 8, 9, 10 after 2025. He is his contract does take him through 2026 technically, but that could end up being it's a void year where big money, not as much dead cap. So maybe we never even see that 2026 season, and that's kind of what he's eyeing as 2025 being that end goal for him. But yeah, I mean, he also said in that answer that he has other goals in life, like business ventures, which he's already kind of gotten into a little bit with his clothing shop, Soul Runner. He's got his podcast that he's done. It needed to be said. The Twitch, the gaming, I know he's got other things. He's his youth camp too that he's been going around with. He just had one here in Miami. He's kicking off the youth camp at Tropical Park in Miami. So yeah, he's got a lot of other things that he wants to do. And if you're the Dolphins, yeah, if you get these, that would be 4 years total, and 4 years where you are in an all-in winner mentality type of situation, and it makes Tua Tagovailoa that much better, and it gives you this explosive offense, then yeah, I don't know if you're going to end up with a Super Bowl to determine if it was a success, but overall, yeah, to have a player of the caliber of Tyreek Hill, which an offensive weapon like the Dolphins hadn't seen. I remember I kept saying this when they brought him in last year, since Ricky Williams, maybe even you got to go before that to Dan Marino as far as the offensive talent that at his position. Yeah, it's a tremendous success to have him in Miami. He's in 1 year alone, he's really brought the fan base forward for this team, and got the team into the playoffs this year. I think the team is ready to take another step with him. So obviously, it's been great thus far having Tyreek Hill in Miami, and if it goes through 2025 and that's the end of it, then that would be great. I think the franchise, the organization, would be supportive of him, whatever decision he wants to make at that point.
Yep. All right, Furones, let's put a bow on this episode with this. My way too early concern about the offense. I don't know if it's way too early, but it's still early because you do have the draft, you do have free agency, but I want this offense to get more significant help. And my opinion on this, Furones. I think the offense was the disappointing aspect last year when you lost 6 of the last 7 games. The defense, I thought you knew what you were getting from that defense, right? The defense was going to be good at home, and it was going to be shaky on the road. The offense you thought was going to be consistent throughout everything. And then you get the 17 points against the 49ers and the 17 points against the Chargers. And you had a good performance at Buffalo, one of Tua's better games, but you didn't win. And then you come back here with the 20 points against Green Bay, right? A 26-20 loss, I believe. 11 points against the Jets in the season finale that you won, that you needed to win to get into the playoffs, but a run game, a more involvement from the tight end. Those are 2 things that I want to see from this offense. You're solid with Tyreek and you're solid with Jalen. I think you need to take some pressure off of Tua. You're asking so much from the quarterback. I think a run game and a tight end would help tremendously. You do need some offensive line help. I would like to see a more veteran backup quarterback, because you do have so much on the quarterback that if Tua goes out, well, now you have that big load on either Mike White or Skylar Thompson. I'm not sure that they're ready to carry that type of a load. So running back to me was the number 1 priority of the offseason. They brought their running backs back. So now I think it's on Mike McDaniel to call a better run game. But offensively, do you have concerns? Do you think significant improvement is needed from here on out? Or could a couple of patches, a left guard, a right tackle, a backup left tackle, and bam, you're ready to go? What are your thoughts on the offense right now?
And you know what? Maybe the position that will more so bring that balance for Tua Tagovailoa in this offense, more so than just a running back, will end up being a tight end.
Could be.
Because
Could be.
because it's so critical, so pivotal in this wide zone blocking scheme to have the tight end be a proficient blocker. So you did see it with Durham Smythe, and he was the starter all year last year for the Dolphins because of that. But when Mike Gesicki was on the field, then it almost telegraphed, okay, this is a passing situation. We're going to be throwing the football, and whether you lined up, wherever you lined up Mike Gesicki, then you weren't really counting on him to block in the run game over there. So that was kind of a weak point. So I think Mike McDaniel might be able to dial up some more runs and bring more balance. Now, once him and his coaching staff now have another year where they, like we mentioned earlier, almost to a point cleaning house with the tight end position, bringing in guys that they want that will fit their offense. They gave Gesicki 1 year under the franchise tag in this offense to see how they could work with him. Didn't quite work out. They were able to get some red zone touchdowns out of him. So whatever tight end they do also bring in, then they'll need to have that combination along with a blocker who can provide that aspect to the run game. But maybe that ends up being what turns that page where Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, even if you're running back with them, these guys were averaging 4.9, 4.7 yards per carry in their time with the Dolphins. Both of them 4.9 if you take their whole season. Jeff Wilson between San Francisco and Miami. Then yeah, you could keep running. If you keep running at that pace, then it'll be great if you incorporate the run game more. And I think maybe getting the tight ends that they want will help them be able to incorporate the run game a little bit more. Along with, obviously, you need improvement on the offensive line. So if it's the competition they bring in at right tackle, whether it's a youngster, whether it's another veteran, to compete with Austin Jackson there. But Mike McDaniel also, as he mentioned to myself and another media organization at owners meetings in Arizona, he wants to give these young linemen like Austin Jackson, like Liam Eichenberg, a second year in this system. So I think that's really instrumental in his mind to be able to develop these guys. He doesn't want to quit on them too early because he has the Laken Tomlinson example from San Francisco where his first spot as a first-round pick in Detroit, maybe they gave up on him a little bit too early. They took him in San Francisco, converted him into a Pro Bowler who then ended up getting 2 contracts thereafter now with the New York Jets. So if one of them ends up developing, not saying someone ends up being like a Laken Tomlinson, a Pro Bowler between Jackson and Eichenberg, but if they end up getting something serviceable, something formidable out of one of them, then hey, you already got 3 out of 5 on the line. And then if you end up getting that +1, 4 out of 5, and then you can maybe hide some deficiencies if you only have one weak spot on the line. So all that kind of working in unison, I think maybe could provide the balance to make it where Tua doesn't have to do so much at the quarterback position.
Yep. All right. Look, before we get out of here, we've got a couple of more questions. Grandier 12, can you give us an updated list on who the Dolphins added to their 30 college prospects list? Are they interested in? Again, I'm going to look offensive line and tight end as the most interested guys that they're going to be in from those 30 visits. You get 30 visits from prospects before the draft, and I'm going to look, interior, probably interior offensive line more than right tackle. I kind of like the tackle options. Well, the right tackle options, backup left tackle, we'll see. But if they re-sign Brandon Shell and Kendall Lamb and Austin Jackson, I think you're okay right there. I think you need a tight end. Your thoughts on the 30 list? What positions and players might they be most interested in?
Yeah, and don't discount another inside linebacker potentially from that. According to our friend Barry Jackson, and he had DeMarvion Overshown from Texas as one of those 30 prospects as well. So he's a guy that would go on a day 2 selection. So don't discount the possibility that they still do look at inside linebacker. They're not done there just yet. They did add David Long as a free agent this offseason, but lost to Landon Roberts. So and even Tyreek Hill when he did that interview in Kansas City with the Kansas City radio station, and he said, yeah, he'd like to see a tight end drafted, but the second position he mentioned was linebacker, so not even a lineman did he go to second. He said linebacker, and he mentioned Roberts' loss as one that the Dolphins need to recuperate from, so fill his void. So don't discount the possibility of an inside linebacker. They did draft Channing Tindall. Now, that was at the very end of the third round last year. He was their first selection of the 2022 draft after trading all those picks away to the Chiefs for Tyreek Hill. But I picked 102. Obviously didn't play much last year. Defensively, they tried to get him in on some QB spy situations. The most he played defensively was in that game against Chicago, Justin Fields, but did some special teams work. So maybe you get some development out of him now with Vic Fangio there, and you have an athletic linebacker like him in Fangio's system, and another year working under Anthony Campanelli could work wonders for him. But don't discount that's a possibility where they could look, although they also did re-sign Duke Riley to that linebacker core.
Yep. A couple of more. Raphael Courtwright writes back in, get Lamar Jackson and Tyreek Hill will change his mind after getting 2,000 yards. Lamar to the Dolphins, baby. Lamar's not coming here. And then look, Raphael, I'm not trying to squash your dreams, but the Dolphins are not, the Dolphins are committed to Tua, number one. Number two, they're not going to commit $230 million, or we don't really know what Lamar wants. We think, I don't think he's officially said anything on the record, has he? But we think he wants something around the Deshaun Watson guarantee from Cleveland, which was $230 million. The Dolphins aren't giving him anywhere near that. So I think that's, the commitment to Tua is number one, and then the Lamar contract is number two. Not happening. You're any chance, Furones? Any chance that Lamar?
And Lamar did say something without saying something with his social media post of the screenshot of him FaceTiming with Odell Beckham Jr., whom the Ravens just signed to the big one-year deal. So I think now I jokingly tweeted something like the Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with Ravens. We got Odell Beckham Jr., Lamar Jackson. But I think in reality, though, Lamar Jackson probably is thrilled to have him, and probably this is what gets him over the hump and just settling in with Baltimore, at least for the time being. So we don't know what the long-term implications will be, if there still is some bad blood between him and the organization going forward. But it probably ends up just staying there because why would it all work out that way? Odell Beckham Jr. signing there, he's got to know that Lamar Jackson's on board, and you got to figure Lamar Jackson, especially posting that he really liked to see his team sign a receiver like Odell. So maybe for the time being, just settle down on that. And who was that? Raphael that said that he better be prepared for the wrath of Tuanon if he's putting those statements out there. I think Deshaun Elliott, the Dolphins' new safety, learned the hard way when he tweeted out just for his former teammate Lamar Jackson, because Deshaun Elliott did play in Baltimore with Lamar, and he said he wanted Lamar Jackson in Miami, and then Tuanon really let him have it. So he didn't make himself welcome to his new fan base right away with that, but he'll have plenty of time to do that over the season this year in the secondary for Miami.
Yeah. Life can be rough out there, man. Trust me, I know. Look, here's our last one from Jason Rico, and I really like this one. It says, Mike McDaniel needs to add new offensive creases. I think he will. D's catch up quickly, and defenses do catch up quickly. I think that's what we saw last season, starting with that San Francisco game and losing the 6 out of 7 to end the season. And listen, I have said that, I think the biggest improvement that this team needs to make is with Mike McDaniel. And he was a rookie coach last year. That's not a rip on Mike McDaniel in any way, shape, or form. He's learning. And so when you do have things such as you're second to last in rushing attempts, and you don't utilize the tight end the way that some of us feel that it should have been utilized, I think those are things that you learn. And the way that other teams are playing you, the way that the 49ers played you, the way the Chargers played you, Those you learn from that stuff. Bringing in Vic Fangio might help as just a little more defensive perspective of what offenses are doing to you, just casual or what defenses are doing to you, just casual conversations. So I really do think that McDaniel I think Mike McDaniel is going to make a bigger improvement this year, a bigger jump than Tua makes. And he has to, because McDaniel has more to do with winning and losing, right? Because he calls the plays. He's in charge of the offense, the defense, and the special teams as the head coach. Tua's in charge of basically the offense, right? So McDaniel has a bigger hand in influencing wins and losses. I do think he's going to make a big jump. Is it going to be a jump big enough to get them to the Super Bowl? We'll see. But I really do think that McDaniel is a sharp guy. He's a very sharp guy. And I think that he's going to learn from what happened last year and from what he's doing this offseason as far as studying and trying to improve.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what kind of wrinkles he comes up with for this offense, because he went into a first year as a head coach where now he had to look at the totality of the operation of a team. So that's a lot more on his plate than he had as just 1 year as offensive coordinator and not even the play caller, which he also, by the way, did add on to his plate in his first year as a head coach, was offensive play calling, because Kyle Shanahan did that in McDaniel's 1 year as OC for the 49ers, and then run game coordinator before that. And obviously he held positions like he was a wide receivers coach and several other offensive assistant positions before he got to that point in his career. So I think now him taking the next step, having everyone seeing the offense work together, function in unison for a full season, and now having an off season to sort of take a step back and let his imagination flow again a little bit more, then I think we will see maybe some more of that creativity like we saw that last year in San Francisco when Deebo Samuel was involved in so many different ways. And then when he has a Tyreek Hill and a Jalen Waddle that he could find innovative ways to get incorporated, then the possibilities are endless. So I really think then I'm looking forward to what he will do now with an entire offseason where he can really think about it now that he has seen it come together and maybe saw some of what he felt worked well, saw some of what didn't work too well, and then kind of bring it all together and just incorporate some new wrinkles that he's probably just coming up with in the minutes while he's just lying in bed before he falls asleep, and just letting his imagination run wild on what he can do in those sleepless nights. So I'm really excited to see what he comes up with.
Yeah, and we saw him at what was the UFC? Was it 287 where he greeted he dapped up Aaron Donald? I lose numbers of the UFCs. I think it was 287, but whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, we're up. It's a lot more than the number of Super Bowls we've had so far.
That's right.
I don't know.
Exactly.
That was cool, and that interaction came to show you. And everyone's going to insert their tampering jokes, but hey, relax. All right, Aaron Donald was just thinking of retirement last year. All right, but it just goes to show you his interactions with everyone. It's clearly he just joked around with him in one brief moment there, and Aaron Donald's cracking up at whatever he told him. So it just goes to show you just the genuine personality that Mike McDaniel is, and how he seems to have that effect on everyone he comes across.
Yeah, he can bring smiles to people's faces very quickly. So, all right, well, Furones, we'll do this again before the draft. We've got, 2 shows before the draft? 3 shows before the draft, I think. 2 shows before the draft. So,
2 before,
yeah.
And then after.
And then 1 after, right, and a draft wrap-up or a recap. So we will check in with you next week. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sending in the questions. That's your boy, David Furones. I'm your boy, Perk. We see you next week, noon, sunsentinel.com.